How's it going, everybody? Burnout and Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio, April 18, 2024, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. We got a lot of news to get into here. Got a big article on the front page today with a lot of details about the new Marigold promotion.
Yeah, the first show, by the way, it sold out. Although that's not, I guess it's always a good sign when the first show sells out immediately. You know, tickets were just put on sale. But, I mean, I expected that. You know, there's going to be the curiosity and everything like that. But, yeah, I mean, the big stuff is that, you know, I mean, a lot of talk about Julia, a lot of talk about WWE and everything like that. And there's, you know, Levesque and Rossy Ogawa did meet over WrestleMania week. And apparently there's something that's been, you know, worked out in the sense Julia's going to, the expectation right now is that Julia is going to work for both companies. Probably the hoped for start date is the July 7th show in Toronto for her in NXT. But then she would continue to work for, she would continue to work in Japan for Marigold as their top star for a little while, however long, I don't know. And then going forward, eventually she will, you know, move to Florida with her family. And then at that point, the hope is that she would continue to work the 4 big shows or however many it is. I mean, the battle plan for Marigold is 4 major shows a year in major arenas, and then like monthly shows at Cork and Hall, which would be the big shows most month, and then the months where they had the 4 big months, the Corrigan shows would probably be the angles leading up to the big shows. So the idea would be that she would probably be on those big shows as much as possible, and also they're going to be looking for, see if they can get talent from WWE for those big shows. Although right now, you know, based on the press conference, the talent they're looking at is Io and who's the other one? Kairi Sane, yeah. Kairi Sane and Io Sky. So, you know, just basically women that have already worked for the promotion in the past, as opposed to bringing in, you know, like a Becky Lynch or Nia Jax or Rhea Ripley or whoever, you know, Bayley or whoever. Although that could happen too, you know, and in time, it probably would be valuable for Marigold if they could bring some of those women in for the big shows and probably spice up the shows, because the one thing that they would do is they would have access, if they did that, to women that, you know, none of the other companies would have access to. So it would be a feather in their cap, because there's many, many women promotions there. And the key thing is Stardom, you know, which is obviously going to be their rival, whether either side likes it or not. That's how it's going to work out, unless they, you know, I mean, when at one point when they were talking, you know, when Rossy was going to quit and everything like that, I mean, Stardom and Rossy, I mean, before he got fired, I mean, the discussions were that in about a year or so, you know, after the start, let's do an interpromotional angle. You know, it makes sense. Although the way that it ended, the relationship ended, I'm not saying it's impossible, because things like that happen in wrestling all the time. You know, companies get at odds, then they make up. But it's less likely in the short run than it probably would have been had the relationship ended a lot smoother. So that's kind of where that stands right now.
All right, we got 2 shows to talk about here. But before we do that, the ratings for this week.
Okay, I'll get into that. Nothing. As far as like the big stuff, you know, SmackDown ended up 4th on network TV for the week. It was behind the Saturday and Sunday Masters, which it was obviously going to be behind. And it was also behind 60 Minutes. So, you know, great number, you know, for that, the show on Friday night. And then on cable, this would be for last week, the Raw After Mania ended up 4th because it was behind the NCAA Finals on Monday night on both TBS and TNT, so that's 2 shows. And then it was also behind the UFC 300 prelims, which is the 8 to 10 block, which had the Holly Holm and Kayla Harrison and the Yuri Prohaska and Alexander Rakic fight, which that show did an 0.86, I believe. did an 0.86, and it was just under 2 million viewers. But the number that was the most impressive was an 18 to 34. It did an 0.81. This is the show that went head to head with Collision, and Collision, which did not do badly against it, nor did Battle of the Belts. If you really
I was actually surprised they both did. I mean, especially Battle of the Belts held up way better than I expected.
I would agree with that. Well, now that with Battle of the Belts, and it went against UFC 300, and not just that. There was a lot of other stuff that night too. There was an NHL game. There was baseball. There was the UFL. There's probably some other stuff there too, but the UFC was the big one, and but it did an 0.81 in 18 to 34. It was 0.86 in 18 to 49, 0.81 in 18 to 34. That number, while it was not as big as the Masters did. The Masters is like one of the big golf events of the year. That number is incredibly high. And the other thing with the UFC number that makes it even more impressive is that it also aired on ESPN Plus. So it probably did several 100,000 more viewers on ESPN Plus. So that was a monster show. And for Collision to hold up. But anyway, so that was like the big stuff. Yeah, Raw was fourth, and then in the what's it called? As far as entertainment, non-sports, Raw always first by more than double everything else. Vanderpump Rules second by 6,000 viewers over AEW as far as in the 18 to 49 demo, 0.31 to 0.30. And then NXT was 12th in that category. So NXT last night, 625,000 viewers, 0.17, with the Carmelo and Trick cage match, and held up really well because the numbers are going to be take some kind of a hit because the NBA playoffs are starting, and each round of the playoffs should hurt the wrestling numbers more and more. And there's playoff games on Saturday against Collision and Rampage. The Lakers are playing on Saturday. There's going to be 2 games against Raw on Monday. There's going to be games on Tuesday next week against NXT. There's going to be games on next Wednesday against AEW. So obviously much tougher competition, but the Laker game did 1.49, 3,816,000 viewers against NXT, which is much tougher competition than NXT usually has. So them holding up, they were down, but they weren't down by that much. And I'm sure the cage match is a big part of that. Raw did 1,807,000 viewers in an 0.61, which was first it beat everything on television. The WNBA draft did 2,446,000 viewers and an 0.58, which is an amazing number. I mean, that's like NFL draft number. And that just, Caitlin Clark is like a freaking, basketball version of Ronda Rousey in UFC. I mean, this woman is an incredible drawing card. I'll bet the WNBA numbers for this season are way, way up from anything historically. The draft did a much bigger number. It did more than 4 times what the last year's draft did, and it did nearly triple, not quite triple, what the final game of I think more than triple actually what the final game of the season did, because the biggest WNBA game on television in the last 15 years did 913,000 viewers, and this draft did 2,446,000 viewers. So, she's an unbelievable drawing card. For Raw, I think the big thing for Raw was the segment with Paul Levesque and Adam Pearce giving the new tag belts.
That one shot straight up. Yeah,
2,110,000 viewers, 919,000. The new belts and everything like that, probably the draw there. And the Cody segment, where he endorsed Jey Uso, that was late in the show. And I expect, usually with Cody you're going to get a big bump, but that did not happen in hour 3. And then Collision was 467,000 and 0.13, which is a good Collision number. Actually, I would say, again, with the competition of UFC 300, There was UFC 300. There was an NHL game on ABC. There was Univision had a big soccer game from Mexico. Baseball, women's soccer, college basketball, college baseball. College baseball and women's soccer would have been dropping numbers, but still, it was number 15 for the night, fifth on cable. And the reason it was fifth was because it was a big news night because of the Iran attack of Israel. So news was way up, and you had the UFC 300, and so it did really well. And then Battle of the Belts held up well, and the people stayed. Even the Athena and Red Velvet match, and this is at 10:45. Was still at 416,000 viewers. And 0.11. So it wasn't like it. It fell slightly in the 3 hours, but it was not like a big drop. And the Tony Storm match with Azumi did very well. I think that did well. The Danielson match, Danielson and Claudio against Fletcher and Hobbs, did a comeback. It did well. So yeah, overall, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Not WWE level by any means, but for AEW on Saturday night, it did fine.
Well, we don't have Rampage and Collision, but I do want to mention that on the after the show went off the air, they had a segment where Ruby came out and told Cool Hand Ange that she was pregnant. And in fact,
this could lead to a lot of problems.
Well, they are dating in real life.
Yes, they are, by the way.
And she is actually pregnant.
Really?
And they are getting married next month. So,
really? Okay.
Yes, congratulations to both of them. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful news. And we'll see it all apparently on Rampage, right? Is that what they taped it for? Rampage or Collision?
I think Rampage, yeah.
All right.
So that may be, I guess, writing her off.
If
she ain't gonna be wrestling for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, congratulations to them. Mm-hmm. Ruby and Cool Hand. I actually didn't even know till today that they were actually a couple, but in fact...
I knew they were a couple, but I didn't know they were getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew they were a couple, yeah.
So
yeah.
I
try not to know those things.
Yeah, but these things just happens.
I know.
Especially when they do an announcement on television, turn it into a real-life deal.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up for today. New Observer's up on the front page, back issue as well. There's a lot of shows you can go listen to and more tomorrow. Lance Storm is going to be up 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern tomorrow, Thursday. He was not on today. He'll be on Thursday. And all of other shows as well. So lots of stuff. Check it out. We'll talk to you again after a while.